In the Know.
Welcome to In the Know with Bloom. Today we've got Dr. Janey. Dr. Janey is a medical doctor and she specializes in treating cancer with natural means. So today we're going to go a little bit into her journey and what actually it means to treat it naturally. So Dr. Janey, thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome. Pleasure to be here.
So before we get into all the medical things and science and that, tell me a little bit about your story, about your background.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one. I was in mainstream medicine, specifically veterinary science, for 22 years. And with respect to cancer, and I single that out because that's my main focus of my work now, I was involved on a day-to-day basis with cancer, surgically removing thousands of tumors over the years, implementing chemo and radiation. And so I was firmly in that approach to cancer, and may have stayed there if not for a particular event, which was sadly the loss of my mum. And that event really, it turned my world upside down in many ways, because it was obviously immensely sad, but it also made me question the very fundamentals of everything I was doing. And when I looked a bit closer, I noticed, I began to realize that my mum hadn't died from cancer at all, and that she'd died from the treatment. This is after the research. And this had a massive impact on the trajectory of my career. And so from at that point, I was overseas at the time, and I really needed to rethink everything. I actually took 3 years out of my career, traveled the world. I met with some amazing people who were doing amazing things with cancer around the world. And I read a great deal, and it really shifted my entire paradigm about what cancer is and how to approach it. And so after undergoing that journey and re-looking at my entire approach to health as a whole, medicine as a whole, and in this case specifically cancer, there really was no turning back to mainstream medicine, because I now look back at it, and I say this with respect because I was there for 22 years, but I now look back at it and see how mechanistic it is, how drug-based it is, how symptom-based it is, and that approach simply, while it's good at masking the symptoms, it's good at making you feel better for a short while, the long-term results are not there. And obviously that's what we all want. So yes, I work from a very different mindset, very different approach. Putting it very simply, the main emphasis is always treating the cause and not the symptoms. You know, drugs really are focused all on identifying the symptoms and then masking them, suppressing them. It's a classic Band-Aid treatment. And so our work is always on finding the cause or causes in each unique individual and addressing that and correcting that. In addition to that, there's two main facets. The second part is always working with the phenomenal inner wisdom that each of us has been gifted with. And when we work with this and we learn how to harness it, then truly miracles can happen. Because there is really, I truly believe this at this point, in my work that there's no disease that cannot be reversed.
Okay.
So, but to do that, we need to work with the body, we need to find the cause, and we need to support the body in healing by, as I say, unleashing the power within. And we don't do that when we use toxic therapies. Toxic therapies do the opposite. They suppress your immune system. They suppress what I like to refer to as the inner doctor. And so we need to stay away from that, you know, and we need to...
So that's all like prescription drugs and...
It is, Matthew. It's prescription drugs, you know, going back to cancer specifically. And if we look at each of those three, we refer to them as the big three in cancer: surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation.
Right.
First of all, surgery is without saying it's obviously very invasive. The body hates to be cut into. It's hugely immunosuppressive. Often people struggle for ages afterwards to recover. They do so as a result of their wonderful immune system, but it sets them back. And some people never fully recover, you know, having had vital organs removed and sections of organs and so on. So that's the first one. Then we look at chemotherapy, which is one of the most toxic therapies known to man. And I'll give you some examples. You know, if chemotherapy is accidentally spot on a concrete floor, it burns holes in the floor.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a biohazard, you know, they actually need to bring in people who are masked and gloved and, you know, and properly protected. This is how dangerous it is. And yet they're putting it into people that are sick.
Yeah.
It really makes no sense at all when we step back and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah. To me, the concept just doesn't seem right. It's like an atomic bomb, because it's supposed to kill the cancer cells, but then it's killing every other healthy cells too. So.
Yeah. Exactly. And you know, I mentioned earlier that it's all about treating the cause and not the symptom. Well, here's the thing: the tumor is just a symptom. So surgery is cutting out the symptom. Chemotherapy is trying to shrink the tumor, the symptom, with chemicals, and radiation is trying to nuke it with radiation. But it's all focused on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So it's gigantically flawed. And it's not until we move away from this tumor-centric approach and say, actually, that doesn't matter. If we treat the cause and we reverse that, do you know what happens? Your amazing body disintegrates the tumor, breaks it down, and your immune system then eliminates it through the various portals of elimination.
Okay.
So, you know, we can deal with tumors without those treatments and so much more effectively.
So what are the causes then of cancer? Is it a big range? Does it depend on person to person, or is there a specific?
It's multifactorial in a word. So there are absolutely many causes. Diet absolutely plays a role, and in modern times more than ever before, we are being exposed to chemicals, to hormone disruptors in our food, particularly meat and dairy, but any processed packaged food has got a stack of chemicals in it that your body was not designed to process. It's hard work on the immune system. While we're on the subject of food, there's water. You know, drinking normal municipal water that has chlorine and fluoride and all the chemicals from agri-chemicals. And then there's the environment. And in the environment, I include the products we put in on our body, Many of those are a cocktail of chemicals,
Yeah.
you know, from shampoos to moisturizers to deodorants, etc. The household products are a massive part as well.
Yeah.
And you know, most people are, in fact, I'll give you a statistic, is the average person is exposing them to 70 times the level of chemicals in their own home as opposed to walking out the door.
Sure.
Now everybody's worried about pollution and exhaust fumes and so on, but their own home, the place that is meant to be the haven, is actually the hot pot of chemicals. And so eliminating and replacing the chemicals from that which we use on the kitchen counter and in the bathroom and in the toilet and spraying insects and on the floor, and you know, using non-toxic alternatives or making your own natural ingredients the way grandmother used to do.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And also the materials on our couches and the mattress that has the flame retardant.
Retardants, you absolutely.
It's the worst thing you can have when you're trying to sleep.
Yes.
So,
Yes. And then just to finish off with respect to causes, emotional causes are massive. You know, we cannot approach a healing program and not address that. And so stress is unprecedented in modern times, and stress results in a spike of cortisol, which is fine, you know. Stress and fear is a normal phenomenon and is a protective mechanism in the short term. But in the long term, when we experience stress day in and day out, it suppresses the immune system. So most people are stressed permanently, and this is having a massive effect on their health. So addressing that, restoring balance in people's lives, learning how to manage stress, making different choices, etc.
Okay, so it seems to me like the inner doctor is actually our immune system. So just anything that suppresses the immune system is what you focus on.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Another way of putting it, what you said was dead on. Another way of putting it is your immune system is constantly working on your behalf every moment of every day. And if you have any symptoms of disease, it means that you have overloaded your immune system, because otherwise there wouldn't be symptoms, because your immune system would have handled it. So if you have cancer or any disease, any ailment, you can assume that you're overtaxing your immune system, and you need to redress that, enhance it, and change some things.
Okay. So I very much subscribe to the idea of a natural way of changing your lifestyle in terms of curing cancer and living a better life. But what about those who are at that final stage, and because it takes a long time. It's a radical change, and it's something that does take dedication. It takes a long time. How do you treat those people?
So you're asking about the advanced stage 4 terminal people?
Yes.
Okay. So the program does look different for advanced stage cancer patients, but stage 4 doesn't worry me at all.
Okay.
The only limitation is people's capacity to embrace healing fully. So whether it's stage 1 or stage 4 is almost immaterial. What is important, in fact, in my questionnaire, I always ask people, from 1 to 10, how dedicated are you to healing? And you would be surprised that people that have their life at stake sometimes can't put a 10. They put a 6 or 7 or an 8 because they're willing to do so much, but they're not willing to make paradigm shifts, which is what's required. So it's very interesting, habits are hard things to break, and people are averse to change.
Yeah.
However, if they're ready to really come to the party, to embrace the changes, to really do what's necessary, then stage 4 cancer, any cancer can be reversed. And there are more intensive therapies for that, and one of the most powerful of all is again learning from our great medical forefathers who used fasting as a way for healing.
Okay.
All the ancient civilizations used it, but of course it's all but forgotten in modern times during the big food industry that pervades, because they certainly don't win if you stop eating.
Yeah.
And there's so many myths that abound about fasting, such as that your body will feed on muscle and your muscles will atrophy, all of which are not true, and won't go into all those details now, but that is one of the most powerful ways of healing, and a good fast that needs to be supported. You do need a practitioner who is very familiar with fasting and what you can expect, can truly work miracles. So for your more advanced patients, to answer your question, that is certainly one of the protocols that we use.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And let's dive into fasting for a little bit, because it's quite an interesting topic. How long would you say we should fast in order to start seeing benefits?
Okay. Well, there's so many different types. For the average person who just wants to improve their health and vitality and longevity, what I recommend is daily fasting. It's commonly referred to intermittent fasting. I prefer the word daily because I really want people to do it daily. And you can have a day or two off over the weekend, but then you revert to it. And what that implies is that every day you're eating, but every day you're only eating in a short window. And the recommendation in terms of living in sync with the circadian rhythm, which is the rhythm that our bodies are functioning naturally and best according to how the planetary bodies are affecting us, is to eat between 12 midday and 7 in the evening. And it can be 6 to 8 p.m. in the evening, but let's say 7, take it in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So you're eating in a 7-hour window, and every day you're getting 17 hours of fasting.
Okay.
Now that's not nearly as hard as it sounds, because most of the time you're sleeping, and so you're really just missing breakfast and not eating until midday. And while the first few days might be a little bit of a challenge for some people, very soon your carbohydrate metabolism transforms into fat metabolism, and then all the cravings and the ups, the peaks and troughs of glucose disappear, and the hunger goes, and it becomes easy. And the benefits are massive. Human growth hormone spikes, your bone-derived neurotrophic factor, which is brilliant for the brain, preventing Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and such in later years, as well as just dissipating the brain fog and poor memory and so on. So that's just a couple of the benefits of intermittent fasting. So that's my number one suggestion for people who are they're healthy and they want to enhance their health. Okay. Then you get, you can do everything from a 1-day fast to a 3-day, 5-day week, 2 weeks, it's extremely variable, to a 40-day fast. Now, a 40-day fast may sound extreme. This is what some of the most influential figures in our history used to follow on a regular basis, such as Jesus, Prophet of Muhammad, Buddha, I know Gandhi followed it as well. And so, if all these great beings were following these 40-day fasts, there must be something in it. And having applied, I'm actually fasting at the moment. I'm doing a 40-day fast right now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What day are you?
I'm only day 10.
Oh nice.
Yeah.
Very good. It must be nice though, just not, because now you know you have 40 days, so you don't worry about food, you just go about doing your thing.
It's amazing, Matthew, how you stop even thinking of food. It's surprising. The first week does have some challenges for most people, particularly if you've never done it. But then it gets easier, and that's what people really need to remember is, they assume that because they're really hungry between one meal to the next, that fasting for a week or for 40 days, it's completely inconceivable. But the opposite actually applies. The longer you do it, the easier it gets. Because your metabolism shifts and your growth hormone, which is the biggest friend for anybody who's just wanting youthfulness and longevity. So it gets easier, and so it's not this impossible thing. Really, anybody can do it if they really want to. There are different types of fast, and if you look at the root word of fast, fast basically means, how you fasten your belt?
Yes.
It makes you strong. It makes you secure.
Okay.
Well, fast means to get strong. So far from what most people think is, I'm going to go without food, I'm going to feel weak, I'm going to have no energy. No, you have heaps of energy. More energy than you had before, because you're cleansing the body, you're detoxifying. And so, going back to the primary word fast, there are, and what ancient cultures taught us, there are three main types of fasting, and they are called, divided into fast, faster, and fastest. Now, fastest is the water fast, and you just do water, and you, as the name implies, you get there quickest, and you get results with regards to healing quickest. Faster is not as fast as fastest, but it's still excellent, and that is juicy.
Okay.
So good organic vegetables and fruit. Also yields excellent results. And then fast, which is the slowest of the three, but still very effective, is eating organic fruit and vegetables of the 7 colors of the rainbow.
Okay, cool.
And when we help people, guide them through the fast, we meet them where they're at. Some people are absolutely up to doing a water fast, and some say, I really don't think I'm ready for that, in which case we offer them the faster or fast option. And it's also not set in stone, so if after X amount of time they want to take it up a level and go from fruit to juices, and then they're feeling good and go to water, well, we work with them. So, you don't need to do something that's massively out of your comfort zone. You start with what you can handle, and you take it from there.
So I just want to talk about the benefits, because that's going to allow people to be like, okay, now I actually do want to fast, because it's something that you need a little bit of some incentive to start.
Absolutely.
So besides growth hormones, besides detoxing, besides healing, what else is fasting good for?
Okay. Well, one of the processes that fasting enables, that nothing else does, dieting doesn't do this, nothing else comes close. It's a process in the body called autophagy. And what it is, in essence, is a deep cellular cleansing. And if there's any diseased tissue, if there's any worn out cells, if there's anything that's really not serving you and slowing down the body, then it cleanses that out. So tumours, of course, are removed, and any other diseased tissue are removed, and that then enables the body to kick in the healing and the rebuilding and the regeneration. So that applies, of course, to people with cancer and diseases, but even to healthy people, because invariably we've got worn-out cells and dead cells and so on that are slowing down the system, and sometimes, very often, people's intestinal tracts are bunged up with mucoid plaque, and their intestines aren't functioning so well, and other organs of elimination such as the kidneys and the urinary system. And so it really cleanses these out from the root level upwards, and so that is the number one benefit to my mind. You reminded listeners of the growth hormone that really deserves repeating, because
just explain maybe
what it does.
It should be.
So human growth hormone maintains and builds muscle mass. That's why, and they've shown us studies of people who have been on months of fasting, so longer than 40 days, and they've measured their lean muscle mass at the start and the end, and they've noted that their lean muscle mass is either the same or greater. So this really, throws the fear out of the window about your muscle being eaten away. It simply is not the truth, and that's human growth hormone. So it is great for supporting muscle mass, and it's excellent for again cleansing the body and promoting longevity and energy, vibrance, and youthfulness. Yes.
Okay.
So that's human growth hormone in a nutshell. It's excellent in breaking habits. There's so many people who have addictions to food.
Yeah.
Excellent in breaking that knee-jerk reaction of eating just because it's that time of day. So we don't need to eat every day, and we certainly don't need to eat 3 times a day. And yet we're eating that often because we're so conditioned to.
Yeah.
So it's excellent at just breaking that and making you realize just how regulated you are by food. And so when you resume eating afterwards, you're really seeing food through new eyes. Yeah. So that's huge, because we know we have the obesity epidemic in our modern times. So if people are addressing that, well, they're also addressing a whole bunch of symptoms. Blood pressure levels return to normal, cholesterol levels, and triglyceride and so on. So all your blood parameters will also return to normal.
So everything just comes back to homeostasis.
Yes, exactly right.
Okay. I actually wanted to ask you, because I've been doing fasting, just playing around with it, but I don't know, because I'm a biohacker, is what they call it. Every time I'll do like a day fast or 2-day fast, and then I want to try and add some things to it, like supplements or this and that. And there was one biohack, and I wanted to ask you, is just having fats. So they say that just having fats, it doesn't turn off autophagy, or how do you say it?
Autophagia.
Autophagy, yeah. Is that a thing? And they say that it's better because at least you're getting more ketones, so you don't break down, you don't go into catabolic states. But so it's I just want to get it out there.
Yeah, sure. So just to try and really address this catabolism that you bring up, because it's everybody's seemingly main fear, and it is what conventional mainstream people are putting out there, and it puts the fear of God into people, and so they don't even go there. to give you, to explain this with facts, your body will never eat your muscle until you drop to below 4% body weight, body fat.
Okay.
4%. Now, to put that in perspective, a elite athlete, and amongst the athletes, I'll focus on an ultra marathon runner who's the leanest. We're looking at an 8% body mass, body fat percentage, and and that's in a male. A female would be a little bit more. The average person on the street is way more than that. Most people are over 20%, and in fact, many people are over 30%. So we've all got tons of fat to use as a good, long, steady source of fuel. So the chance of you losing that much weight to reduce your fat percentage to 4%, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in 40 days unless you were pretty emaciated at the start. So of course, every long-term fast we assess those factors in each individual and we monitor it. It is not something that we come across because we all have plenty of fat. We live in a time of plenty, and so most people are very well equipped. And even if people don't look fat, there's intra-abdominal fat. There's fat around all the organs and so on. And even if for a while you might become underweight, if you're healing from something like cancer, it's well worth being underweight and looking a little bit skinny for a few weeks, and then the weight will soon restore to your perfect, your natural body weight once you've healed. But how much better than doing that and being a little bit skinny for a while than not doing it at all because you don't want to lose the weight and not healing.
Okay. So is there any benefit? So then it's rather not try and tweak things and just go with the normal, simple.
Yes. There's no need to add fat. And yes, it would interfere with autophagy. Okay. Yeah. So your body is. You've used the word homeostasis more than once, and that's it. Your body knows how to do this. We need to actually get out of the way of our body. And stop thinking that we know better than it. The wisdom of our body is billions of years old, this inner wisdom, and when you think of that and you compare the pharmaceutical industry, which is less than 100 years old, you just see the massive contrast in the underlying wisdom. We really can't compete with the wisdom of your body. So get out of the way, support it with lots of good pure water, absolutely, or if you're doing the faster option, good organic juicing, and your body will preserve the electrolytes. Your body will hold on to the salts and the appropriate amount of fluids and fats, and you're going to be releasing a lot of fats, and you're going to be producing a lot of ketones. Now, ketones is what the brain uses to energize itself during fasting. But here's the thing, the brain loves ketones. It's like a superfood, absolutely. Yeah. It's a superfood for the brain. And there's some interesting stories in books about, for example, the American prisoners of war in World War II held in Japan. And they were starved. Now, starving is quite different. It's involuntary withhold from food. Now we're doing it voluntarily. But they were starved for months on end, and I referred to the BDNF, how it promotes brain function. Well, there's some amazing stories about these prisoners of war and how their cognitive abilities just skyrocketed by doing this extended, in their case starvation, but fasting would be the same. And there were reports of the one guy said that he learned Norwegian in less than a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And another guy talked about how he could recite a book without seeing it, word by word. This is something that we can barely comprehend, but it's really unleashing the powers of the brain by clearing out all the plaque in the blood vessels of the brain and really allowing it to function at its optimum.
Okay, very interesting. Well, I think we got a lot on fasting then. What other methods do you use that are the best, the bang for your buck? So fasting is definitely one of them. What else is there?
So one of my other favorites, now we talked about how the inner doctor has been overworked and overstretched, and that's why we get disease, which is just that the body is ill at ease. There's so much weight on that word disease, but that's all it is. It's a temporary ill at ease which can be corrected very easily. Now, one of my favorite protocols to restore the inner doctor to its original magnificence is the liver cleanse. The liver is the center of your immune system. It's the star of the show. And I had an amazing mentor. I was very, very blessed. He has passed on now. His name was Andreas Moritz. And he worked with over 30,000 cancer patients in his time. And he said in every single one of those patients, no exception, the single, in terms of physical factors, the single common denominator in all those patients was the existence of liver stones. Or you could call them gallstones or bile stones. Now, most people in the conventional medicine are very familiar with gallbladder stones. But here's the thing, if you do blood tests, you won't pick up liver stones. Your liver can be full of them and you won't pick up any abnormalities. You can do an x-ray and you won't see liver stones. You will see gallbladder stones because in the gallbladder, the salts of the gallbladder combine with the liver stones and make them radiopaque so we can see them on the x-ray. Problem is then that conventional medicine just cuts out the gallbladder and says you don't need one. Well, of course you need it, You wouldn't be gifted with one if you didn't.
Exactly,
In fact, every time you even see a meal or imagine eating it, your gallbladder is contracting like a balloon and sending a bolus of bile down to your duodenum to prepare for the food, to digest it. So you need a gallbladder. And when people have their gallbladder out, they are left with a permanent digestive incapacity. And again, it's classic Band-Aid treatment. So instead what we say is we need to remove those liver stones. And on that point, your amazing liver produces 1 to 1.5 liters of bile every single day to bathe the food as it passes through the stomach and into the duodenum to enable it to be digested. So the bile, together with the pancreatic enzymes, bathe the food and enable digestion. Now, you can imagine that if your liver is full of stones and it's blocking all the bile ducts, well, the bile isn't going to get down to the duodenum. In fact, in diseased patients, and particularly in more advanced patients, we're finding that less than a cupful of bile is getting down there. Yes. So here's the thing, when I see people, by the time I've seen them, they've often changed their diet, they've made, they've really tried their best, but they're not seeing changes. The diet is not, they're not reaping the rewards for their efforts. And it's because of the liver stones. You can eat the perfect diet, but if it arrives in the duodenum and there's no bile there because of the liver stones blocking the passage down to the intestine, well, you're not going to be able to utilize it.
Yeah.
So you must address the liver stones, ideally before even a dietary change, or certainly alongside it. You can do both together, but you cannot exclude it, because if you exclude it, you will undermine all your other efforts. So for me, it's the number one most potent protocol for restoring your immune system back to its original best. And it's such an easy, I love it because it is safe, it is effective, it is inexpensive, you can do it from home, and it works. It really, it really yields results. So
is it just a protocol that you go through with different supplements?
Exactly. It's a 7-day protocol. The ingredients are super cheap. On that count, I'd say don't go and Google the liver cleanse. Google has lots of wonderful things, but there's lots of abominations of the liver cleanse, and you'll see 1-day ones and 3-day ones. People are always wanting to cut corners. It's a 7-day cleanse. That's the way it should be, because one of the things that is a part of the liver cleanse is for the first 5.5 days you take apple cider vinegar, and that is crucial. It contains malic acid in it, and malic acid dissolves the stones. So when you shed the stones, they're soft and they're easy to pass, and there's no problem in passing them. If you do that over 1, 2, 3 days, it's not going to happen. So do it properly, get the proper cleanse. They're welcome to, get in touch with me for that. But do the original cleanse, which was founded by Andreas Moritz.
Okay. All right. And any other supplements? Because I actually want to talk about medicinal mushrooms, and I don't know if you prescribe that at all, but I've been reading up a lot about chaga and reishi, the king and the queen of the mushroom kingdom, and they have very, very potent anti-carcinogenic properties. Is that something that you incorporate, or is it just more like adding?
It's another tool. It's great. I also just want to throw open this whole can of worms about supplements.
Yes. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's another multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's certainly better than pharmaceutical drugs. But it's still not treating the fundamental root causes. And a lot of people are taking a bunch of supplements every day, not really addressing the lifestyle changes that they need to incorporate, but using the supplements as a crutch. And here's the thing, that supplements, also going back to the root word, supplement suggests a fractured food. It's not a whole food, and the body doesn't recognize it properly. It's hard work, and when you're taking a bunch of different supplements every day, it's more work on your liver. You have to digest it, you have to process it, and that's overloading often an already overloaded liver. So I really am against stacks of supplements. I would really prefer you keep it as simple as possible. Sometimes there is a place for a particular supplement here and there, the one that we advocate most highly because it contains every nutritional molecule known to man, and it is so bioavailable, is marine phytoplankton. And if you take that, you can actually replace loads of supplements just with that one whole food superfood. And you know, for folks who aren't familiar with marine phytoplankton, it really is the power for all life forms on Earth. You know, it's the bottom of the pyramid in the ocean, so the entire ocean chain of life is dependent on marine phytoplankton, and more than that, it produces over 90% of oxygen for our planet. So we are all surviving because of marine phytoplankton. So if it can do that for the planet, imagine what it can do for you. It's a phenomenal superfood, and so that is, if people are just wanting to single out one that's going to enhance their health, prevent disease, help them heal from disease, that would be my recommendation.
And I will plug in Wild Koi here because they are the only ones now that have brought it into South Africa. So luckily we can finally get that.
Yes, well